I think we weren't working on our jealousy as much as we should have been. I feel like everybody was kind of looking out for themselves rather than like, okay, how can we build up this group and how can we make a better whole? I feel like we weren't including God enough. I mean, this is such a complicated, challenging way of life. You have to include God. There's a lot of things that I saw that I'm like, we're screwing up here.
Where we don't just watch the drama, we uncover it. If you've been feeling like something about Sister Wives just hasn't been adding up lately, you're not alone. Because behind those big family dinners, perfectly lit confessionals, and the constant talk of unity, there's a quiet storm that's been brewing for years. And now it's finally breaking wide open. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched someone smile through pain so deeply buried, it almost became invisible? That's what watching this show feels like lately. But if you've been paying attention, like really paying attention, you'd notice the cracks, the uncomfortable silences, the way someone's voice trembles just a little when they talk about respect, the way words like blocked unsafe and loyalty are thrown around like confetti. Except it doesn't feel like a celebration. It feels like survival. Today, we're diving deep. No sugarcoating, no pretending. We're going to break down what's really going on in the aftermath of Christine leaving, the emotional unraveling of Meri, Janelle's quiet rebellion, and how the so-called family unity has turned into a carefully staged performance. We're pulling back the curtain on the control, the secrets scrubbed from Instagram, and the hidden truths this show tries to gloss over. So, if you're done with fluff and ready for facts, hit that subscribe button right now and make sure your notifications are on, because here on TLC Next Chapter, we don't just watch reality TV, we read between the lines. Buckle up, because what's coming next might just change the way you see the entire Brown family forever. Christine's departure wasn't just a breakup, it was a revolution in plain sight. The moment she packed her things and left Flagstaff, you could feel the ground shift beneath the entire Brown family. It was quiet at first. No dramatic slamming of doors, no big confrontations, just that haunting image of her removing the Christine nameplate from the house. That was the moment we all knew. This wasn't just about her relationship with Kody. This was about reclaiming her life, watching Christine leave. Honestly, I got emotional because we'd watched her for years, trying to smile through being sidelined, trying to choose happiness while barely getting crumbs of love. And when she finally walked away, it wasn't bitter, it was powerful, it was calm. It was something so many women watching recognized in themselves. That quiet decision to stop waiting for someone to change and to change your own life instead. And let's be real, Kody didn't see it coming. Not like that. He was scrambling, spinning, angry. Not just angry at Christine, but at the loss of control. You could see it in his eyes. He was used to being the center of gravity, the one everyone circled around. Christine stepping away didn't just hurt his ego, it threatened his entire system, because if she could leave, what stopped the others? That's when the family dynamics cracked wide open. Janelle, who always kept things low-key and diplomatic, started asking harder questions. Her loyalty started to feel less like obedience and more like quiet endurance. And Meri. Well, Meri was left in the shadow again, watching another woman take back her voice while she stayed stuck in a one-sided emotional ghost town. Christine's exit wasn't the end, it was the beginning of truth-telling, of wives waking up, and of a man who suddenly realized he couldn't control the narrative anymore. If Christine's departure cracked the foundation, Meri's story shows us what it looks like to live under the rubble for far too long. Her journey is quiet, restrained, and honestly painful to watch. She's not loud, she's not dramatic. But the silence is deafening. And that's where the emotional manipulation creeps in, right in those silences where love should have lived. Let's go back to that catfishing scandal, not to rehash it for gossip's sake, but to understand how deeply Meri's trust was already fractured. She was reaching out, emotionally starving, and someone showed up. Granted, under false pretenses, but it still said something. It said she was lonely, isolated, desperate for connection. And how did Kody respond? Not with grace, not with compassion, but with distance, with walls, with that cold, punishing detachment that just screamed, "You broke the rules, now serve your sentence." And that's where blocked came in, that word blocked. We heard it over and over in recent episodes. Kody saying he felt blocked by Meri, as if her mere presence, her pain, her attempts at reconciliation were barriers in his path. But the truth is, he blocked her emotionally, physically, spiritually. He left her hanging in limbo, dangling between the illusion of still being a wife and the harsh reality of being completely unwanted. And here's the thing that gets me. She stayed. Not because she was weak, but because she was loyal. She kept showing up, kept defending the structure. She even stuck around while Kody was parading new favorites, handing out affection like a reward system. Meanwhile, Meri was emotionally exiled, still attending family events, still wearing the title while being treated like a footnote. It's this kind of silent punishment that doesn't get enough attention. You don't need to raise your voice to control someone. Sometimes withholding love, validation, and presence is the cruelest manipulation of all. Watching Meri now trying to explain herself, still grasping for something, anything, feels like watching someone apologize for being left out in the cold. Blocked wasn't just a word. It was her reality, her cage, and no one came to unlock it. Janelle's journey didn't erupt. It simmered. For years, she was the calm voice, the one who kept the peace, who focused on the practical while everyone else wrestled with the emotional. But eventually, even the quiet ones reached their limit. And when Janelle hit her breaking point, it wasn't explosive. It was clear, controlled, but devastating all the same. We saw the tension start bubbling during those holiday planning scenes. Remember that episode where she tried to explain how important it was for everyone to feel seen, and how Kody responded with that ego-driven monologue about loyalty and obedience as if being a wife meant falling in line? That was the moment something shifted. You could see it in her eyes. The quiet realization, he's not listening, he doesn't see me. And then came the camera confessions. Those little side interviews where Janelle, always composed, started getting brutally honest. No more rehearsed lines, no more dodging. She said it out loud. "I don't even know if I want to be here anymore." That kind of honesty doesn't come easy, especially for someone who's built a life around stability. But once it cracked, there was no going back. And listen, I felt that moment where you realized the person you trusted, supported, maybe even built your identity around was never really on your side. It's disorienting, it's enraging, and it's so freeing. Now, let's talk about Christine versus Janelle. Christine jumped. She had clarity, courage, and maybe a bit more desperation. Her pain was loud, her transformation fiery. But Janelle, she walked slowly, thoughtfully. She didn't need fireworks, she needed truth. And once she saw it, how the loyalty wasn't mutual, how Kody's idea of family was centered entirely around himself, she started pulling away piece by piece. Their stories run parallel, but not identical. Christine's was about breaking free. Janelle's is about reclaiming strength. And now that she's standing on her own, you can tell there's no going back. The realization hit her hard, but she didn't crumble. She restructured. And honestly, that kind of quiet revolution might be the most powerful one of all. Here's the thing about public personas. They're curated, polished, and often wildly disconnected from what's really going on behind closed doors. And nowhere is that more obvious than in the Sister Wives world, especially after the fallout from Christine's departure and everything that followed. Because while the show gave us emotional confessions, tense family meetings, and tearful realizations, social media painted a different picture. All together. And for a while, it felt like we were being gaslighted right along with the wives. Let's take the Tamron Hall interview, for example. Kody sat there poised and calm, trying to play the part of a misunderstood patriarch. He talked about loyalty, unity, and how things just fell apart like it was some tragic accident no one could have prevented. But we watched what happened. We saw the subtle digs, the cold stares, the way he shut down anyone who didn't worship the ground he walked on. And yet there he was on national television, acting like he was the one who got abandoned. It was infuriating, and it didn't stop there. Fans started noticing how social media was being weaponized too. Captions mysteriously edited, posts that once included warm, nostalgic messages suddenly scrubbed or deleted. Photos once framed as family love were rebranded with cold, vague language. It was like watching someone slowly rewrite history in real time. A new narrative was being crafted, one where Kody was the injured party and the women who left were the ones who gave up. But if you've been watching from the start, if you've seen the emotional labor Meri, Christine, and Janelle poured into that family, then you know that couldn't be further from the truth. And the real betrayal, it wasn't just the way Kody treated them, it was how he tried to erase their stories, sanitize the truth, and manipulate public perception to stay in control of the narrative. That's why fans felt and still feel gaslighted, because we were there, we saw it unfold. And then we were told through interviews and Instagram posts that we misunderstood what we saw, that our emotional reactions weren't valid, that what we witnessed wasn't what really happened. And that kind of emotional manipulation, it's not just dishonest, it's harmful, especially to viewers who've been through their own versions of this story. It's not just about a breakup, it's about trust. And when that trust is broken, especially in such a public, calculated way, it hits deep. That's why people are still angry, because the real war wasn't just inside the Brown family, it was between truth and the performance of it. And we're not buying the performance anymore. Here's where things get even more complicated. Because while we were watching the breakdown of romantic relationships, something just as painful was happening quietly in the background. The unraveling of the sisterhood, and no one represents that tension more than Robyn. Once introduced as the hopeful new addition to the family, she quickly became the epicenter of controversy. Was she the innocent peacekeeper or the silent strategist working behind the scenes? From the outside, it all looked like one big blended family. 4 wives, 1 husband, a house of shared values and support. But slowly, the cracks started to show. And when Christine left, those cracks turned into full-blown fractures. Suddenly, Robyn wasn't just the newest wife. She was the only one left standing beside Kody. And the question fans kept asking was this always the plan? Because here's the thing, unity doesn't collapse overnight. It fades through 1,000 small betrayals, left out conversations, broken promises, shifting loyalties. What used to be, we started sounding a lot more like me. And while the other wives talked openly about their pain, confusion, and need for independence, Robyn seemed to double down on defending the system that was breaking them apart. It felt less like support and more like strategy. And watching that dynamic shift was heartbreaking. The sisterhood we were told existed, built on shared motherhood, late-night talks, and mutual sacrifice, looked more and more like a performance meant to hold the illusion together until the illusion finally shattered. What's left now feels raw and real, less like a family, more like survivors of the same storm who finally stop pretending they're okay. That's the real loss. Not just the marriage, but the trust, the unity, the belief that maybe, just maybe, this unconventional setup could actually work. And maybe that's what hurts the most. So here we are, friends, the end of a myth we were all sold. The picture-perfect polygamous family, the harmony of sister wives, the idea that with enough faith and sacrifice, everyone could be happy under one roof. But as we've seen play out in real time, the cost of keeping that illusion alive was silence, pain, and control. And the women, Christine, Janelle, Meri, they finally stopped paying that price. This journey hasn't just been about the unraveling of a family. It's been about the unraveling of a lie. That control dressed as love is still control. That being spiritually married doesn't mean you owe your soul. That loyalty without honesty is just quiet suffering in disguise. What we've watched over these seasons isn't the collapse of a family. It's the liberation of the individuals inside it, the ones who finally said enough. And for us, the viewers, this story has been personal. We've rooted for these women. We've cried with them. We've screamed at the screen when things didn't make sense. But through it all, we've learned something powerful. Healing is messy. Truth-telling is uncomfortable. And walking away from what you thought was your forever takes unimaginable strength. But it's worth it. To be heard, really heard, is something Meri, Janelle, and Christine fought so hard for. And by choosing themselves, they've shown the rest of us that you don't have to stay in something that breaks you just because you once believed in it. That's not failure, that's freedom. So if you felt this journey too, if you found a little truth in these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe. This is where we dig deep, we speak loud, and we never sugarcoat the truth. Drop your thoughts in the comments.